Another hot one is in store for us today. Yesterday, reaching 90 degrees. A lot of us wanting to find ways to cool on out. Lake Erie, I'm sure, would keep plenty of us cool as water temperatures, though they are going to start to warm up with the heat we have this week. It's just another gorgeous look here on Marblehead, the lighthouse cam there. Just beautiful, clear blue skies, beautiful blue waters, and you can even see some folks out there enjoying the nice weather. That's the place to be. Even as we head here into the end of May, today's the last day of May, and early June, we are still talking about that heat wave as we're going to be looking at more days at 90 degrees or higher, and that rainfall chance pretty quiet. It doesn't look like we're going to be looking at much rain here in that extended forecast. But as far as the 90s, we had our first day of the season, so only one of them so far. I bet today will add up to that as well. On average, we see about 19 days a year that we're at 90 degrees or above. Last year, we were a little bit beyond that number. We registered 23 days last year into the 90s, and the record has been a while. 1988, we had 44 days that year. That's over a month. That's about a month and a half that we had 90s that summer. So we're going to, of course, keep account on the heat that we have for this season and see how it stacks up. But it's actually a little bit earlier than what we typically expect. Our average first 90-degree day is around June 12th. So seeing this around May 30th, a little bit early in the season, and we'll see if that is going to allow those numbers to add up or if it's just a quick burst of heat. As I look, though, into June, I'm seeing some more summer-like weather, but I'm not seeing big heat in that forecast, so we'll be keeping an eye to it. Even before lunchtime, just like yesterday, already into the lower 80s before we reach the middle point of our Wednesday. You'll find some 70s further east, kind of slicing the Buckeye State there. You're going to find all of Northwest Ohio, though, into the 80s. And then further south, that's where we have the 70s. And then north and west, you can see the Mitten State. Also into Indiana, Illinois, looking at 80s there. So we are just kind of into that ribbon of warm air. And then we have some 70s and, well, even some 80s. You'll find that then further west. Now, our hour-by-hour temperatures. This morning, we were into the upper 60s. So not a huge cool down, but at least it wasn't the 90s. And then as we go through the day today, you're going to find that we head into those 90s. Still, as we go into the dinner hour, we're still seeing those upper 80s and some big heat. Overnight, we cool out once again into the 60s. Hopefully, we can get down into the lower 60s. If you don't have air conditioning, it's really the overnight that we, of course, have to hope that we get some cooler conditions for us. But as we go into Thursday, once again, we're eyeing the chance for more 90s as we hit that peak heat into the afternoon around 3, 4, 5 o'clock. So that's what we're going to be watching. As we go through the day today, we have 90 degrees, so it's still going to be very warm, still talking the dry weather, and we yet have full sun. You remember those beautiful blue skies in Marblehead? That's what we're going to be keeping, blue skies overhead. Another thing, though, with the dry weather is it's at least good car wash weather. You can go without the rain. You can go get that wash done, get the sponge out yourself, whether you do it yourself or you just go down the street and go to the car wash. That way you can get bang for your buck because we're not talking about rain in the forecast. So it's a good car wash day if you think about it. But we have plenty of heat, so you're going to want to use the air conditioning in your car as well, as we have 90s for today, the rest of this week, and even into the weekend. So the stretch still holding on for us. As we get towards the back half of the weekend, Sunday, Monday time frame, that new calendar week, we are in the upper 80s yet at that point, so it's still going to be pretty warm outside and yet above average for June standards. But hey, it's summer after all. We should be talking about some 80s, and we will stay there through the rest of the 10-day forecast with 80s. We just, though, will have some low to mid 80s as we go through that next work week. It's a little bit of a cooler spell that we start to see, or at least a break from the 90s in that longer term forecast. As far as the humidity, yesterday you noticed, we had that easterly breeze. It kind of helped cut the heat a little bit, but we really didn't find that we had a lot of humidity. We just kind of hovered a little bit between the dark green and the lime green there today. When we find our dew points that are going to be in the 50s, we're actually, well below that. 90 degrees itself is still hot. But at least as far as our comfort, you're going to find that we're at least in the comfortable category with dew points sitting below that 60-degree mark. Kind of 60 degrees, if you keep an eye on dew points here during the summer, 60 degrees and above is really when you start to kind of feel it outside. Again, 90s on their own are just hot alone. But at least if we have a stretch of 90s, we don't have a lot of humidity with it. We're just going to at times just hover into the upper 50s as far as those dew point temps. So that's going to be playing a little bit with maybe a little bit of that humid sensation. But I'm just still happy to see that we are holding on to pleasant and comfortable conditions as we go through much of the forecast. Though Saturday looks like that's going to be a touch more into that humid category. Still, I'm not anticipating it to be miserable outside for your weekend plans. And then Sunday, though we're not into the 90s, the humidity still kind of ranging on the lower end. So considering our muggy meter could be off the charts, it's pretty comfortable for us. And now for those, though, who are going to be cooling off by the pool, this afternoon you're going to have full sun. Don't forget your sunscreen. Your UV index for today is going to be peaking at about an 8, which is pretty high. It's not going to take long for a sunburn, so take care of yourself. Remember that peak sunburn time is going to be around noon or even a couple hours shortly after that. And that's also, though, when we really start to see those numbers climb on the thermometer. We're going to be up towards 89 by 4 o'clock. So for those who are doing afternoon swim lessons, you're going to find 80s very comfortable to be by the pool, but also just be mindful that you are going to need that sunscreen. So we're still talking summer heat in the forecast. Of course, as you're chilling by the pool, always have the radar app going, because when we finally have some rain to talk about, it's going to be a helpful tool. So you can just practice with it now and then we'll use it later. Eventually, we might be talking about some rain, but we have dry forecast in the hourly tab, also on that daily tab in the app. Don't forget the app is free to download. All you have to search is WTOL 11 weather. Now, as far as this dry weather, you're not going to find a lot of rain in the app, so let's talk about it. This is our 10th consecutive dry day, and we are going to find that we have 34 days is how long we went back in 1908 without seeing rainfall. So hopefully we do not duplicate that stretch. That would be extremely tough. You know, August 24th through September 26th was when we had that. So of course now, though, a lot of farmers have those plants in, and if they don't have the irrigation, that just makes things to be a little more difficult. Of course, at that point, that still is tough. Got to have at least, an inch, maybe an inch and a quarter of rain each week when we're talking to local farmers, what they hope for, what their wish list is. So seeing a dry forecast and talking about dry data, not exactly what we want to see. But with the dry weather, it has allowed our farmers to get into the fields. Looking at a percentage of the crops that have been planted, you're going to find that soybeans and corn really starting to catch up here now that we're going into the back half of May. As far as oats, into the 91% range as far as what we have planted. But the outlook as far as, farming kind of by the numbers, we're still looking at dry weather. It's going to make it tough for those plants as they get going. We also, though, are going to be looking at, our average of planting. It's still ahead of schedule, though the weather, it's been nice and dry to get in the fields, then it's going to be tough for the plants to kind of take over from there. But 68% of our subsoil moisture is still there. So we are still looking at a base of water within the ground that does have moisture in it that, of course, the roots from the crops are able to tap into. Still going to add some stress to local crops, but at least we have some moisture available. 68%, we'll take it. That's enough that we can work with because we don't have a lot of rain. So we're going to have to work with what we have. And of course, with 90s and 0 rain, we're going to be seeing a lot of stress on those plants as we go into the weekend. Overall, Sunday going to be the cooler day of the two, and you'll even find, though, overnight lows during this time into the lower, even mid 60s. So we're not going to have a big cool out, but if you don't have air conditioning, you'll find a little more of a relief into the overnight once we get into next week. But still, no raindrops on this forecast as we even look forward to next week. So of course, we'll be watching what that means for our forecast and also what that means for local farmers. Of course, we'll continue to have updates here on WTOL 11+, but also on the WTOL 11 weather app.